What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about happiness and what it actually means and what it looks like. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody so much for tuning into the podcast episode. Like I said, we've been doing very little marketing. I don't know why I said we when it's just me, but I've been doing very little marketing and you guys are still tuning in. So I'm just so thankful for you guys showing up as I am showing up. One of the things that I definitely learned about happiness is that it's definitely 100% based on your circumstances. We understand that joy is definitely something that's internal. Joy is one of those things to where, there's just a level of peace within you, a level of excitement, hope, contentment, all of those things within you, despite your circumstances. And that's something that can never be taken away. I think joy is being able to see the good in people outside of what is going on. You know what I mean? I think that with understanding comes joy because there's, a riddance in regards to confusion. I think when it comes to joy, it's harmonious. It's an understanding of being connected with everyone, so I think that definitely makes a huge difference. And I think that when it comes to happiness, on the flip side of that, happiness is based on your circumstances. So if you don't like your circumstances, you're not going to be happy. If you don't like something, you're not getting this, a certain result that you want in your life, you're not going to be happy because those are external things that you can change. And one of the things that I've noticed about people in happiness, and even for myself, there are two types. I think that there are people who resist happiness. And I know for myself, having been in previous seasons where I was going through and I was really struggling with certain things. And, I was comfortable in the fight. You know what I mean? I was comfortable in the fight. And that's the thing about comfort. She is so reliable. She is so consistent. She is so constant and dependable and familiar. And she is so safe. You know what I mean? So I realized that, for myself, I had got really comfortable in the storm. I had got comfortable with going through that. I didn't look up to see that my circumstances had actually changed 100%, and I was putting in the work, but I was never happy with my circumstances because my mind was stuck in a place of comfort. I hadn't elevated and I hadn't moved forward in my thinking, but I was doing everything externally. You see what I mean? So that left me with a spirit of confusion in a sense because I'm putting in the work, I'm doing things, I'm elevating, I'm making more money, or I'm doing things where it's I'm changing my circumstances. I'm not where I was. I'm moving forward in life, but my mentality is not changing. I'm still doing the same thing. And so that to me, I think this just kind of just goes back into just self-awareness, but I think when you have that type of energy, you're never really going to be happy when you have that type of mentality. You know what I mean? Because you're not perceiving your circumstances correctly and you're kind of in a space where you're perceiving things as your old self. I think one of the things that I love about the Bible and why it's such a great book is because it's seriously a book of wisdom. When it comes to people who are high temperamental and just super, super angry and things like that, it's really just because of fear. And I think that it's because they're not getting the results that they want in life. And this really just goes back to your mentality. So overall, at the end of the day, you're in control of those things. You're in control of the externals. You can totally change your situation around. You know what I mean? And you can always decide to think differently about something. But one of the things I will say that I think a lot of people don't recognize is what you put out, you're going to get back. It's coming back to you. You know what I mean? And I do think that we do pay a price, and you have to just accept it because it is what it is. But at the same time, if you're always somebody who's spewing negativity, or if you're somebody who's always moving on emotion and you're just you're doing things just to kind of get back at people, you got the type of spirit of revenge on you and things like that, it's never going to turn out for your good. Because one of the things that I've definitely learned in regards to forgiveness, nobody's coming to tell you sorry. Nobody's coming to apologize. Nobody's coming to make it right. There is no closure. And I think one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is seriously the gift of forgiveness. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many people who are walking around wanting people to pay a price. You know what I mean? And they're just not going to. You know what I mean? That relationship is not going to change. That person is not going to change. And so at the end of the day, it's why even hold on to that? you totally 110 surrender your joy and your happiness to another person when you do not forgive people. And I definitely think that's why a lot of people walk around angry and frustrated, you know. And of course, we can talk about social media and we can talk about those other external factors, but a lot of this stuff is what's going on inside of you, you know. And I definitely think for myself, because I did have the joy, I realized, like, when I was going through the storm, I found the good in certain things, but I had to change my mindset, and I had to realize, like, hey, this here is not where you want to reside. Like, this dysfunction, this storm, what you're going through is not for you to reside in. And even though you see the good in it, you still got to move forward in your life. You know what I mean? And the seasons have changed, and, like, don't forget to look up, you know what I mean? While you're grinding, while you're working, while you're, you know what I mean? Doing those things, because, you put the work in, and, like, your circumstances have changed. So, like, elevate your mindset, because you're no longer in a mindset where you need to be surviving, or you're no longer in a mindset where you need to be moving a certain way, because the seasons have changed, you know what I mean? And you've also put in the work. So sometimes it's easy to kind of get caught in a season too, like, mentally, you know what I mean? Because it was a place that was, like, really, really comfortable, and it was a season in which you were cultivated, you know what I mean? So I completely understand it, but at the same time, you know, it just ain't cool to walk around and just be bleeding all over people because you got your own things going on. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not happy, if you're tired of doing something, you can totally change. I think the biggest thing that the biggest reason why a lot of people don't want to do anything differently or step out and actually have some joy and some love and some peace and some happiness in their lives is because it's going to require change. It's going to require you to do something new, and you're comfortable. You know what I mean? Just like I said at the beginning of the podcast episode, like, you're very comfortable with where you're at and how things are moving for you. That's why you're not going to change anything. You know what I mean? Like, you totally have to be in a space where you're willing to change. Like, it's definitely very hard, but it's possible, you know. And I think if you want something new in your life, if you really want to go for whatever it may be, you know what I mean, you're going to really have to change. And I think that's just very hard for people to do, because, like I said, whenever you've been doing something for so long, you've been thinking away for so long, it gets to a point where you start to identify with that mentality. You identify with those thoughts. You start to really, you know, perceive yourself in such a way. And so anything outside of that that's going to stretch you, grow you, and require you to be different, it feels like a self-betrayal, because it's like, I've always thought this thought, so I've always felt this way. I've always, you know what I mean? And so when you go against that, it's like, oh, dang. You know what I mean? Like, it feels very uncomfortable, you know? So I think that's why a lot of people won't change. But yeah, your comfort, it will really leave you in a space of misery. You know, I really will. I think comfort zones are like where most of our suffering resides, you know, because we're so comfortable there. And it's like, God's always doing a new thing, you know, and even when we don't understand it, we still have to stick with it and move forward. And I think that's just hard, you know, for a lot of people to do. So in regards to your happiness, it's totally up to your circumstances, and only you can change your circumstances, and it's not going to be overnight, but it's possible. And, you know, when it comes to your joy, that's just having peace in the storm. That's having peace in the mansion. You know what I mean? That's just understanding that always see the good things in life and always be grateful for the little things in life. You know what I mean? And always see the possibilities, and joy is hopeful, and it's belief, you know, and it's freedom and it's imagination. So I think joy in itself is something that's very easy to attain in any situation. But happiness is definitely solely dependent upon your circumstances, and you can change those, you know. And when other people are unhappy, or when we talk about people being miserable, just understand that they're just, you know, they're just not happy. They're afraid, you know what I mean, to make a decision and to do something new. And, you know, that's not your responsibility. Don't be a doormat. But at the same time, you know, you have an understanding of that. So then you can decide how you want to respond to that. But overall, it's up to you. The ball is totally in your court. So just make sure you're making the right moves, and you understand what it is that you want, because you can have it, you know. You can definitely have it. And let me just say this too, because I think sometimes we be like, you know, we have this thing where we're like, oh, you know, I want this or I want that. And we don't recognize, like, what we need. You know, understand that if God hasn't given you what it is that you want, it's because it's not something that you need. And get into a space in your life where you can accept the fact that you're not getting everything that you want, and be okay with that. Like, you know how growing up, our parents would say, okay, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to get this. And you're like, man, I really want those bag of gummy worms. And your mom's like, no, because I'm cooking dinner, you need to eat. And you're like, no, I really want those bag of gummy worms. You feel some type of way, you just like, man, my mom is so skept, whatever you may be thinking. But then you go to bed at night and you sleep so peacefully. You done had your broccoli, you done had your veggies, you know what I mean? You done had your little protein, you know what I mean? Like, you done had a great meal. And you're so satisfied, and that feels good. Now, just think if you would have got them gummy bears and you would have ate them gummy bears. Just think if you would have got them gummy bears and you would have ate that whole bag because you're irresponsible. Let me not even say irresponsible. You would have ate that whole bag of gummy bears because you're excited. It's good. It's fruity. It's flavorful. It's pretty. And it's everything that you wanted. Now you go to bed. You're hungry. You're inside. You're not fulfilled. You're feeling really sad. You're not feeling the best. Your tummy is hurting, your tummy is aching. And on top of that, you're still hungry and you want more. Do you see what I mean? So understand, like, when you don't get something that you want, it's because that's not what you need. And that's not what God has for you. And he knows what can fulfill your heart. And he knows what can supply your needs and all the things in which you need. So, sometimes we don't know. I think for a very long time, I thought I was a bad person. I thought that there was something wrong with me because I'm not getting what it is that I want. And I started to study the law of manifestation and all of these things. And what I had come to realize for myself was that life was so much more than just having everything that it is that you want and having every single desire. And I realized that I wanted fulfillment in my life. I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't have a clear explanation. I think sometimes we lean to self when we're afraid, and it's crazy because the truth is that we never stop actually being afraid. And, it isn't until we surrender to something greater than ourselves. I think you can acquire fame and riches and, so many things. But I think that fulfillment really comes from God. I think that fulfillment is the one thing that you cannot bring upon yourself. No matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you change your situation and you make things happen for yourself. I think fulfillment is something that definitely comes from the will of God because he knows why you're here. He made you. You know what I mean? And so I think the overall message of this podcast, and you guys have to excuse me, honey, we have the AC on, like the freaking ceiling fan, you know what I mean? When I say we, I mean like me, but me and my dog. So it's kind of changed the sound, but I definitely think overall, you guys, like, it's just one of those things, it's just so important to really look at what matters in life. And I don't really think you can have a clear sense of self while always being online and always being influenced in a sense. I think that there comes a point in life where there is some truth, you know what I mean, that has to be spoken. And truth doesn't always feel good, but it's real and it's honest, and it's going to take you to the next level in which you need to go. So understand that change is definitely critical in this process, and understand that if you don't get everything that you want, that's okay, and understand that God is the supplier of your need. I think I'd much rather have what I need than what I want. You know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe that just takes a level of maturity. But overall, you guys, it is very much possible to live a life of happiness, of bliss, of peace, of joy, of truth, of love, of all of these beautiful things and overall fulfillment. But I definitely think that it comes from surrender, from prayer, from just having a true sense of self. I think that it comes from, really maximizing and self-actualization. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast episode because I know that the tone and the bass and the sound and all those things have definitely transitioned. I'm so sorry, but yeah. So I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts, and I hope everybody had a great day.